left-hand side for Vieira, who will play it through to Gabriel Jesus, who's in here for Arsenal. Gabriel Jesus to finish it off. Oh, what a way to do it! Gabriel Jesus seals the points for Arsenal. He's back, and he's back with a bang.
Into the penalty area it goes. Gabriel's header, and it's into the back of the net. Arsenal take an early lead through Gabriel.
You're listening to the Chronicles of a Gooner, the daily Arsenal podcast with me, Harry Symeou.
He's here and he's beautiful. Arsenal have finally completed the signing of Mikel Merino. The announcement dropped yesterday. I'd have loved to have been able to get you an episode out there and then, but I was working last night and I was driving down to Selhurst Park as the news broke. I want to talk a little bit about my experience at Crystal Palace on today's episode as well, because I was thinking about the Eddie Nketiah thing and actually watching the performance that I saw from the Eagles and from one player in particular. I'm actually concerned that Eddie Nketiah might not get in to that Crystal Palace starting 11. But we'll get into that. We'll talk about Mikel Merino. We'll run through the announcement, the key points, some of the things that I think I learned about him, having watched his first interview with the club. We'll also bring you an update on Jakub Kiwior's future. We'll also talk Joan Garcia, the goalkeeper that Arsenal are being linked with. And I'm hoping this is the first of two episodes that I'm going to bring you today. Now, I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that I'll get the opportunity to do another one a little bit later on in the day. In fact, this evening. And I encourage you guys, if you're interested in hopping on the show that we do later today, we can make it a bit of a call-in thing if there's interest. If people are in the live chat box and feel like they want to come on and have their say, then I'd love for you guys to do that. Now, I don't know exactly what time it's going to be. I am heading off to work after this, so I'm going to try and get home as early as possible. But when I get a feel for how the day's going, I'll put a post out letting you guys know exactly what time works. But anyway, let's get into it then. Actually, first to say some hellos, because there are lots of you with me, and I'm really surprised at that, actually, because this is much earlier than we normally stream. It's completely out of the blue, the time. I get it. I appreciate it. I wanted to get this out as early on in the day as possible, but also I've got to shoot off somewhere after this. So, big good morning to Aaron, to Kadir, to Henry, to Wandering Minstrel, to Wesbird, to Ticking Time Bomb. Hope you guys are all good. And to everybody else joining us in the live chat, remember to leave a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you're new, and if you're listening on audio, please do leave us a review, because that really, really does help. Mikel Merino is a Gooner. Brilliant, brilliant stuff. Now, I've said, throughout this window that it wasn't the kind of signing that I was super excited about. It was a signing that to me felt like a good one, felt like a smart one, but wasn't necessarily one that I was totally convinced by in terms of it being a needle mover, if that makes sense. I think we've got someone in Mikel Merino who certainly gives us a profile that we were lacking. I talked a lot in the first half of last season about where Arsenal struggled, in my opinion, with no Granit Xhaka. We struggled with the lack of a natural left eight, and we were using Kai Havertz there at points, and he gave us lots and lots in terms of work rate, and he did drift into goal-scoring positions, albeit it took him a while to get going last season. I'm more confident in Kai Havertz playing as a left eight today, because I just think generally he's performing at a much higher level, but he's still not a natural left eight. And I think when you look at what we need in that position, yeah, we've got Declan Rice playing there at the moment, but you can't fully rely on Thomas Partey. So having someone that can play in that left eight role, I'm not suggesting for a second that Declan Rice comes out of the starting 11, but it means that Declan Rice could comfortably drop into that sixth role, and it wouldn't necessarily be an issue for us further up the pitch. I think Mikel Merino, if you went through all his stats and you went through kind of what looked to be his key points, you would say is a good fit, because when you look at what Kai Havertz was being asked to do in that position, Mikel Merino seems to be able to do a lot of that, but at a much higher level, whilst being a more natural midfielder. So I think it's a signing that makes sense. I watched the interview yesterday. I listened to him speak, and he really kind of won me over in that. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a bit more detail in just a few minutes. But I still don't look at it and go, wow, that's the signing that's going to win us the league. I think it's one that consolidates our position. I think it's one that improves us in a very specific department of the team. But I still think we need that forward player. And we heard some wild links last night. I mean, I was driving home last night from Selhurst Park, and I had LBC, the radio station, on. For those of you that are not UK based, it's basically like a kind of, it's called Leading. LBC stands for Leading Britain's Conversation. And what it is like it's like a phone-in show, right? So you've got a host who will bring up a subject. Normally they try and find one that's quite controversial and divisive in terms of people's opinions on it. Bear with me, I'm going somewhere with this. And then people ring up and have their say, basically, right? So I'm on the way home and I'm tired. It's been a long day. I've driven down to South London, which is only like 18 miles away, but seems to take like 2 hours to get to. I've been sitting in traffic. I get to Selhurst Park. I do my full commentary on the game, which is tiring in itself. And then I hang around for an absolute age waiting for Oliver Glasner to come and give me an interview, which wasn't worth me waiting around. Let's put it that way. And then I get in the car and I'm driving back, and I got fed up of the football talk. So I put something different on. And they're talking about Lily Allen, the singer Lily Allen, who adopted a dog. The dog, in her words, ruined her life by eating her passport and other things and whatever, and caused her all sorts of issues. So she decided that she couldn't house this dog. So she took the dog back to the dog shelter, and basically people were calling up, outraged at the fact that she gave the dog back, and really going in on her. And I was kind of like, well, I get it, but at the same time, like, at least she didn't mistreat the dog. Anyway, why am I talking about dogs? The point is that I thought that was wild enough that was a conversation that was being had on the radio. And then I get home and I sit down and I have a cup of tea before I go to bed, and I'm scrolling through Twitter and everybody's linking us with Darwin Núñez. And I'm thinking, what? Where the hell has that come from? Darwin Núñez. Now, I really wanted Darwin Núñez before Liverpool got him, actually. But I don't for a second think that Arsenal are going to be able to get that deal done. Anyway, maybe we'll talk about that on the show a little bit later on today. But the point I'm making is that just some of the rumors that we're seeing right now, they're just wild. They're just wild. And it was nice yesterday to come home and sit down and spend some time talking or listening to someone that is in the door, that is going to be a part of the squad moving forward, and that is going to hopefully help us to achieve our goals this season. So the announcement was made, obviously really, really positive. Listening to him was a breath of fresh air, I thought, because, sometimes you get footballers and they do their best, and, they try to put their messages across and come across as best as possible, particularly in the first interview that they give. And sometimes you think, well, they're just throwing a load of cliches at me. When I listened to Mikel Merino yesterday, I really believed him. I really believed what he was saying. I really got the impression that this is someone that's here for the right reasons, that this is someone who believes that he can be an asset to the team. He's got that self-belief and confidence, but he's also humble enough to know that he is making a step up right now, and to recognize that he's going to have to put a lot of work in to ensure that he performs at the level that we need him to. So yeah, I thought him speaking was brilliant. I thought it was a breath of fresh air listening to him. He was talking about the fact that the decision to join Arsenal was an easy one. We know that he had offers from Spain as well. But he said because of what he's seen over the past few years, how big the club is, but also the ambition that he could see, not just from what Arsenal were doing on the pitch, but from speaking to Mikel Arteta and Edu, that's ultimately what done it. That's ultimately what pushed him over the line in terms of, convincing him that this was the place for him. And if you go back through all of our recent transfers, there's a common theme. Once Arsenal get to the point where they are speaking with someone on a serious level, it feels like they never miss after that. It feels like Arteta is just so convincing, that Edu is super convincing. Yes, they're leveraging the power and the size of this football club to help them convince people that this is the right place for them. But my God, they're good at selling it, aren't they? They're good at getting these deals over the line. Now, this one took a little bit longer than I'm sure we would have all liked. And I promised you that once we did the announcement pod, which is this pod, that I'd call him He Who Shall Not Be Named for a little bit for a period of time. Maybe we'll put that into place for the rest of the week because I'm sick of talking about Mikel Merino. But we got to do it today because I thought, as I say, listening to him was really, really encouraging. Obviously, there were pictures of him when he was a kid in an Arsenal kit, which is amazing. His dad was a footballer. I'm sure you all saw during the Euros that he scored a goal in the same stadium that his dad did in Stuttgart. I was actually at that game, and he ran off and celebrated the same way that his dad did to kind of just mark that, which was amazing. But yeah, really, really pleased that we've got him in. He was asked a bit about his own qualities, and he said that he's a hard worker, a good teammate. He's always thinking about the collective aspect of the game, which is great to hear. And when you listen to him speak and you listen to the points that he puts across, he didn't sit there and go, I'm really good at duels, which he could have done because he won more duels in European football or at least in Europe's top 5 leagues last season than anybody else. But he didn't sit there and say, I'm good at this, I'm good at that. He talked about the collective. He talked about the team ethic. And when you listen to that, you can understand exactly why Mikel Arteta thought that, maybe he's not the perfect fit in terms of his age and how much Arsenal had to pay for him, etc., given he's at this stage in his career. But I think his character is a character that fits. And he kind of reminded me a little bit when he was speaking of Jorginho. Now, I'm not saying he plays like Jorginho. I'm saying that he's that kind of slightly elder statesman who's slightly more experienced, who's experienced all different things. La Liga, the Premier League before with Newcastle United, but also the Bundesliga with Dortmund. He's won a European Championship with his country. He's someone who's been around the block, but that doesn't seem to have got to his head. And there's that kind of, I don't know what it is. It's that kind of like fatherly energy that comes across that I think Mikel Arteta thinks would really benefit the group and the squad. He talked about the fact that, he can't guarantee that he's going to win every ball, but he will fight for every ball. He talked about his experience at Newcastle United, how that will be helpful because he kind of knows what to expect coming into this league. He touched on his relationship with Martin Odegaard, which obviously exists because they both played at Real Sociedad together before. He talked about the conversations he's had with Kieran Tierney, David Raya as well, his international teammate. So there's lots and lots to be encouraged by in that. He feels like the right fit character-wise. I think he's a good fit footballing-wise, and we're going to find out over the course of time how right we are on that and how right Mikel Arteta and Edu are on that, of course. But character-wise, based on that 8-minute interview, I can tell already that he's someone who is going to fit in really, really well. His English was great, which obviously helps. Like, there are a lot of Spanish speakers in the team. So if it wasn't great, I don't think that would be a major issue, at least, for a while. I'm sure Martin Odegaard's got some Spanish in his locker. I'm sure that Thomas Partey does, having played at Atletico Madrid. You've got Mikel Arteta, the manager, is a Spanish speaker. So I don't think that would have been an issue, but I think it's great that he is someone who speaks the language really, really well, because it means that he comes in and instantly he can bond with everybody. He can bond with everybody. He doesn't need to, be a part of a clique initially just to try and get, like, take Fabio Vieira as an example, right? When he arrived, we knew that his English wasn't great. And as a result of that, he sort of gravitated towards hanging around with Gabriel Martinelli all the time, and they became really good friends. And Gabriel Magalhaes and Gabriel Jesus, because of that Portuguese-speaking element. But maybe that stopped him forming the kind of bonds and relationships that he needed to with some of the rest of the team. And obviously for Mikel Merino, that is not going to be a problem. Arsenal put out a video, as they seem to do now every time we make a new signing, of the player sitting in and among the group in a briefing and being introduced and being asked to say a couple of words. I quite like that because it shows the player in his, as David Attenborough would say, natural habitat. But at the same time, I do kind of miss the big dramatic release or announcement videos that we used to do. So, hey, Herman in the chat says, Harry, if we were missing Xhaka, Merino has come to fill that, so he moves the needle. Yeah, I mean, look, when I say I'm not sure how much he moves the needle, it was never about the fit. I think positionally, the fit is good. I think in terms of his skill set, the fit is good. It's just that you're not talking about someone who has been a star at one of the big clubs in Europe. You're talking about someone who has had a good few years at Real Sociedad, struggled at times in his career prior to that, if we're being completely honest. Is 28 years old, has cost us maybe a little bit more than I'd have liked to see us pay for a player of that age, and given, perhaps more importantly than his age, his contract situation, of course, at Real Sociedad. So, yeah, I think it's, as Wes, but this is really well put. Sensible signing rather than sensational. That's it. Agree. That's how I look at this. But listening to him speak, I'm a lot more confident about how good a fit he is than I was maybe a week ago. And I think it's kind of a lesson to us that, Mikel and Edu, they probably know what they're doing. And maybe we should listen to them that little bit more. Just quickly, or trust them is the right word. Just very quickly on what Edu and Arteta have had to say on this signing. Sporting director Edu said, we are so happy to have completed the transfer of Mikel Merino. This has been another great team effort from many people at the club to finalize the transfer of a player who attracted interest from a number of clubs over the summer. Mikel was a key target for us this summer, and we identified him as a player who can fit perfectly into our squad and profile to improve us as we aim to build on our strong performances of last season. With Mikel's arrival, he brings us an added high quality of experience, physicality, and athleticism as we look forward to the season ahead. We welcome Mikel and his family to the club and look forward to seeing him play in the Arsenal shirt. Mikel Arteta, not Mikel Merino, he said, Mikel is a player who will bring us huge quality with his experience and versatility. He has played at the top of the game at both club and international level for a number of seasons now. Mikel will make our squad significantly stronger with his technical ability, beg your pardon, together with his strong and positive character and personality. As we all saw in the summer, Mikel is also a winner with his strong performances throughout the Euros, helping Spain win the tournament. We're delighted to welcome Mikel and his family to the club and can't wait to start working with him. And it has been confirmed that he will wear the number 23 shirt. Now, why is that interesting? I'll tell you why that's interesting right after the break. Okay, so don't you find it interesting that, and I'm not saying that he deserves to take this number on, because it's a big old number, it's a famous old number, and many greats have worn it in the past. But don't you find it kind of interesting that we've left the number 10 shirt free? Does that mean that we're going to be doing some business involving someone who might just take that shirt on between now and the end of the window? I don't know. Time's running out, but I'm hopeful. I'm optimistic. Fingers crossed. Just wanted to bring you a couple of other updates before I say goodbye. Remember, we'll be back a little bit later on this evening with a second episode for the day. Wanted to talk about Jakub Kiwior. He's been informed, his people have been informed by Arsenal that he is not going anywhere this summer. The Gunners want to keep him. They see him as a valuable member of the squad, which I'm not massively surprised by, to be honest, particularly when you think about how patchy the injury records of Alexander Zinchenko and Takahiro Tomiyasu have been over the years. You can kind of understand why Arsenal maybe think that it's best to keep a hold of him. Covers at centre-back, covers at left-back as well. So, yeah, there's going to be plenty of games this season across the multiple competitions. So we should be good with him staying. And I think at a point, we'll need him. He might not be entirely happy with not playing every week, but it is what it is. Also wanted to talk about Joan Garcia, the Arsenal goalkeeping target. Now, there's no suggestions that a deal taking Aaron Ramsdale away is close at this moment in time. But Joan Garcia is someone that we've been linked with. And Fabrizio Romano keeps doing that thing where he puts the eyes emoji over a tweet that he's put out in the past. So is he trying to say that there is work going on in the background to do that deal? And maybe once that deal is done, Aaron Ramsdale will be allowed to move on? I don't know. We're going to have to watch this space. I think it's going to be a really busy few days for Arsenal. We're going to do our best here on the Chronicles of a Gooner to keep you as up to date as possible, to provide some opinion around whatever is happening, and to give you guys the platform as well to share your opinions in the live chat and via any phone-in shows that we get to do as well over the next few days. But I just wanted to highlight those 2 points. Could it be that maybe we're the ones holding up a deal for Ramsdale? Southampton are linked quite heavily at the moment. Wolves have made moves to sign Sam Johnston. from Crystal Palace. We think that's going to happen for around about 10 million quid. So maybe Wolves have turned their attentions elsewhere and won't be pursuing a deal for Aaron Ramsdale. But Southampton, as I mentioned, are interested, as are Ajax. We know that. So maybe we're going to see something develop with regards to our goalkeeping situation. But if Ramsdale was to go, we absolutely have to get one in. So it wouldn't be completely unthinkable that Arsenal are trying to perhaps get their ducks in order there before sanctioning any deal for Aaron Ramsdale. So I think we're going to learn a lot over the next few days about that. Eddie Nketiah. I just wanted to touch on him very, very quickly before I go, because I told you I watched Crystal Palace last night. That was the first game I'd worked on, first Crystal Palace game I'd worked on, probably sat down and watched in full, actually, since Oliver Glasner took over. And I know they've had a bad start to the season. They lost a couple of games. Their performances were much better than what they've produced in terms of results. But the transformation is incredible. The way they play high up the pitch, aggressive, press, always on the front foot, is in stark contrast to what we used to see from the Eagles under Roy Hodgson. And the reason I bring this up is because one player in particular who was outstanding last night, has been outstanding for over a season now, is Jean-Philippe Mateta. If you have not seen his first goal yesterday, go and watch it. Go on YouTube, search it. Mateta against Norwich City. It's a bicycle kick, an overhead kick that basically looked impossible. Like Paul Parker was with me on commentary yesterday, and he said, how does a guy who's 6'20" manage to get to a ball that low and pull off an overhead kick? It was an unbelievable finish. And it got me thinking, because throughout the game, Jean-Philippe Mateta was not just a threat inside the penalty area, but he linked up brilliantly with his teammates. Some of the link-up play with Eberechi Eze, it was his assist that created the opening goal for Daichi Kamada. And the reason I bring this up is because I look at that and I don't really know how Eddie Nketiah gets in that starting 11, to be honest with you. Is he going to play off Mateta? Is he going to play from the right, from the left? I don't really know. Perhaps Crystal Palace are looking at Mateta and thinking he's going to need a breather. He's going to need to be part of a rotation, because obviously he's been to the Olympics as well. Hasn't had a break really. But yeah, like Eddie Nketiah doesn't walk into that team for me based on what I saw last night. So I thought that was interesting and a point worth making. Right, I'm going to leave it there because I do need to catch a train. But as I say, we'll be back later on, and we'll probably do a longer episode. And feel free to get involved if you would like. Check out our Patreon proposition. The link is in the description below. I'm in the process of making the next Patreon pod, and that'll be with you at some point on Thursday. Remember, even if you sign up as a free member, you'll be able to access our Patreon bits until the end of this month. After that, you'll have to sign up, but I thought I'd give you the opportunity to try it before you buy, as the kids say. Anyway, I'll leave it there. Sorry I didn't get around to your questions, but we'll spend lots of time on that a little bit later on this evening on the next episode of the Chronicles of a Gooner podcast. Don't go anywhere. Thank you.